This is my reflections for my observation with my mentor. It wasn't a sound session, which is a group that I run really regularly. It was Kelly who was doing it, who runs the group with me, so sort of knows them, but was doing it from a really objectional point of view in terms of her looking at my learning and what I need. I was really pleased with the session. The group are, I've got a really good relationship with them anyway, so it wasn't in terms of relationships and my relationships with them. I think that impacts my good relationship that I have and my knowledge of them and knowledge of what they like and what they don't like is quite useful in terms of my behaviour management and including. And I noticed on my feedback that I managed to include two young people that really quite reluctant, and those two young people are quite reluctant in most sessions, not and don't want to join in. So usually what I've got to do is come up with a way of getting them into the session. And trying to attract them and trying to be quite inclusive, because they do tend to try and sit out so they don't have to join in. I don't mind if they're quiet, but I want them there. We've got some clear ground rules, which I don't think were on there, but about use of mobile phones, and we don't. I'm quite happy to let the kids have their mobile phones in the youth hall because there's nothing I can do about that. But when we're doing work or when we're doing issue-based work or we're doing group work, then we don't have their mobile phones, which for me is a real pot. It really works, and actually they really respect that. And because we had a problem with them texting across the room, and I just was like, no, we're not having that. So we stopped that. What I really liked about this is that we do a lot of, at the beginning of the session, again it's the whole getting to know you stuff. We do a lot of round the table, and we all have we've got a glove puppet that we use that's called, the kids called it Felicia, and I noticed that that's been identified on my feedback as something that maybe is a little bit different, maybe not used with kids of this age, or maybe only used with young kids. But my group absolutely love it, and the fact that it's a unicorn, and they can identify, they like unicorns, to do with LGBT identity, or I think to be honest, I think it's more of a young people thing. I was looking for communities of practice in this session, and that happened. Obviously, it's a group of young people that have got a common interest. So some are more active within that community. And what I tend to do, and this helps with my differentiation and various other things, is that I get them to take a bit of a lead or to lead on the activities. They've been around a really long time, they're really involved in services. If we're doing anything around definitions or anything around that, then I always try and include them. I can see things going on in the group. I can see the different styles of learning. I try and focus on not necessarily on more of the social learning aspects of learning theory. Like Bandura is a massive influence and about modelling behaviour, because this group of young people don't necessarily have an LGBT role model. They don't have any. They might not know anybody. They might not be out to their parents. So it's about them having some role models within the community who they can look up to. So for me, that's what I feel with them, and I think it really comes across in this. It came across in this session when we were talking about sort of staying safe and sex and relationships, and how that sort of blossoms and develops, and it isn't just about the apps on the phone, the meeting people and having casual sex and all the sort of stereotypes that we have about LGBT young people and that the community. So it was sort of a bit of a myth busting session as well. I thought what was really good is that I'd identified that I wanted Kelly to look at me repeating myself, which was something that Ian had picked up in one of my other observations. And I know that I do it, and I try so hard not to let that happen, but it still does. So I wanted Kelly to sort of keep an eye on that. And she's wrote some really interesting, some good tips for me, which is one of them was, unless they really are showing that they don't understand, just don't do it. So maybe what I need to do is just repeat it once, stop, and then do that. I mean, I don't think there wasn't anything wrong with the I mean, I haven't got problems with the content, and I don't think any of my learners, I think all my learners were always engaged. I think that I differentiate for the group because there's so many different needs. I've got young people that have got disabilities in there. I've got young people that are identifying as male or female when transgender kids. I've got kids that aren't out. I've got kids that are looked after. So I've got loads of different young people from different group, different sort of protected groups, and different and from different with different disabilities and things. So it's really interesting, and the conversations that are generated from that are generally really useful. One of the biggest things that happens to me during sessions is that I run out of time. And I think it's all the sessions. I think that's because I try and cram in as much into a session when I'm planning it as I can. But maybe what I need to do is sort of strip it back a little bit and think about giving extra time and adding extra week, like sort of adding extra weeks on, so that it doesn't. And what Kelly said is, don't be scared of cutting my sessions short, which is I like to try and get everything I've planned in. So that's about my practice and me saying, okay, well, I'll sort of strip that back. I'll strip that back a little bit. But I thought in a whole it was really good. I saw some really good learning. I saw some really good different styles of learning, and I saw I wanted to. I saw group members learning from one another. I saw that scaffolding going on, which for me are some of them the easier, the Bandora, the scaffolding, the Lava and Benga, the learning from one another. I find that really, really good. And what really impressed me is that in terms of like reflective theory, that Kelly looked, and that's another professional or someone from a similar background to me saying, actually, that's really good, and your practice is really good, and that I really can't, the things that I've identified, she's looked at and done. So for me, that's a really useful thing to go through, and that makes me feel a little bit better in a time when maybe I don't always see the good, and I don't always see that, and maybe I need to look back and go and look at some of those reflective theories. I think Kolb's cycle is really useful, and it's something that I've been practicing for 15-20 years, about sort of doing reflecting, sort of planning, doing reflecting, planning, doing reflecting. But I think the idea of Brookfield and these different lenses is really good, is really useful. Thinking what the professional think, and what the young people think, and what I think, because obviously they've got a say, and I always evaluate at the end. And for me, evaluating at the end is partly of the beginning as well. And I like to map things and do some distance traveling stuff. And I think that's partly my background doing the youth justice work as well. But but thinking about like the academics, or thinking about the different learning theories that are going on in the room, and trying to challenge that, and trying to stretch and challenge them. I think that's quite important, and I think that's something that, as part of my CP continual professional development, that's something that I'm gonna identify in my professional issues paper as well.